Hello everybody, Jeff from Close to Home in Glastonbury here with the October block of the month for the Make Yourself at Home quilt. I hope everybody's enjoying that fall air. Leaves are changing. Halloween is right around the corner, and then the holidays will be right around the corner around that. Today we're going to be doing my favorite block in this series. It's called Rhode Island. This has been my favorite block for a long time, and I think you'll see why it's a little bit unique. It's Rhode Island, so it's named after the state I was born in and grew up in. So as an homage to that, Rhode Island. Here we have Rhode Island. This comes to us from a publication that used to exist out of Portland, Maine called Hearth and Home. They actually had a block for every single state and every capital as well, and then eventually added even Alaska and Hawaii. It's a really cool series. Unfortunately, all those blocks kind of are standalone. They don't really go together as a quilt, but I have taken a few here and there because it is a really cool series, and you can even still get books that have all these blocks in them, so they're really nice. Now, I love this block, this star in a star design. However, because of that on-point nature of this block, it is a little more difficult. So I am going to be providing some templates for you to cut out, because there are some cuts in here, just a couple that are in the 16ths in the measurement. So we're going to move on. I'm going to show you the template here. So for your center, the very center of the block out of the tourmaline, that big G template, you're going to cut 1. And for the 4 background squares that are in the kind of the center there from template J, you're going to cut 4 out of your background. So just cut these templates out with the seam allowance and use these to cut just those few pieces to make sure this block comes out right. So here are all the pieces that you will need for the block this month. From your tourmaline, you're going to get 2 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 squares and 2 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 squares, and 1 from template G that is roughly 3 5/16 by 3 5/16. From the accent color, you're going to cut 4 4.5 inch by 4.5 inch squares and 1 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch squares. And then from the background, you're going to cut 4 from template J, which is roughly 1 15/16 square, and 2 from the background that are 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. We're going to cut a few of these into some triangles, some of these squares. So first, your 5 1/4 inch accent and tourmaline squares. You are going to cut those from corner to corner on all corners to make them quarter square triangles. And from your tourmaline, the 3 1/4 inch square, you are also going to cut corner to corner both sides to make quarter square triangles. You'll end up with 4 of the accent, 8 of the bigger tourmaline quarter square triangles, and 8 of the smaller quarter square triangles from the tourmaline. And then from your background 2 7/8 inch squares, you are going to cut from corner to corner once to make 4 half square triangles, so you'll end up with 4 of those. We're going to start by making some flying geese blocks. So you're going to start with some of your smaller tourmaline quarter square triangles that you cut from piece F, and you're going to put those together with one of the background half square triangles. Just as shown here, you want to match those sharp points at the bottom, and then you're going to sew your 1/4 inch seam along the edge, press toward the triangle, and then pair another triangle on the other side, just as shown. So a 1/4 inch there, press that open, and then in the end you're going to make 4 of these flying geese blocks. And then we're going to make our center of the square. So you're going to use those 4 flying geese blocks, the 4 background squares you cut from template J, and the tourmaline that you cut from template G. And you're going to place them just like this. You will sew the rows together, and then you'll sew those columns together, and you'll end up with our center, which will measure about 6 1/8 inches by 6 1/8 inches. Next, we're going to make our corners, but first we want to make some markings so that we can line everything up. So from your accent 4.5 inch squares, you're going to fold those in half 2 times and make a mark in the midpoint on 2 of the sides that are touching each other, any 2 sides, as long as they're next to each other. And you're going to do the same with the tourmaline quarter square triangles that were larger, the ones that were cut from E, and you're going to fold those in half and make a little mark in the middle so that we can have everything lined up. Then once you've made all those markings, you're going to pin the centers together, those marks together, along one side of the square with one of those quarter square triangles. You will sew your 1/4 inch seam, iron that toward the triangle, and do the same on another side, the adjoining side that you also marked. So you'll only be doing 2 of the sides of this square, and you end up with this little piece here, this almost home plate shaped piece, and you will have 4 of these pieces. Now we're just going to put everything together. So you're going to use the corner pieces we made in the last step, your center, and 4 accent quarter square triangles that you cut from piece I. We're basically making a 9 patch, but this would be called a 9X because we're doing it on point, so it's kind of like a diamond instead. You're going to sew those rows together just as shown here. Then you're going to sew those columns together, and you have Rhode Island. Really love this block. I hope you like it too. The next block will be November 22nd. That is a week early. Usually it's the last Friday of the month, but that's going to be the day after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to release it a week early on November 22nd. And thank you so much. Have a great Halloween. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you soon.